Let's
sleep.
talk about sleep because,
Yeah.
what, along with being a family counselor and along with being a depression specialist, your big passion is sleep and understanding how that ties into people's overall health and also their mental health. And that was something that, again, I hadn't really thought about much until it was brought to my attention in the last year of people my therapist asked me, how much sleep do you get at night?
Mm.
And it could vary anywhere from 8 hours to two, because I've had chronic insomnia since I was 12, 13 years old. And it was hard to try and understand at that age why I couldn't go to sleep on time, and why I couldn't turn my brain off. And
Would you
then
get in trouble for it?
I would, because as a kid,
You're up.
you're regimented. You're
Yeah.
up from this point, 7:30, 8 o'clock, go to bed. And if you're up, clearly you're not interested in paying attention to what your parents want you to do, so you get punished for it. And it's like, Mom, I can't sleep because I can't shut my brain off. And I used to get in trouble because I would, as a kid, what most kids do, I would read. And the problem was that reading kept stimulating my brain enough that I would want to keep going. And the next thing I knew, it was like 11 o'clock. But as a kid, you're more malleable, so you can bounce back easier. You could get by on 4 or 5 hours sleep. As an adult, not so easy,
Right.
and when I was in my late 20s, I'd gone through a really traumatic couple of years, and it got to the point where my brain wouldn't turn off, because that was when it shifted from I'm just awake because I'm an overstimulated kid to I'm awake because I have a brain that is now giving me, at this time of night, it's no, you're not going to bed yet, because I'm going to blast you with every intrusive thought you don't want to think about, and all these flashbacks and all these memories of all these things you really, really, really want to forget. We're going to go through that all right now in this big slideshow. And hey, have fun going to work in a couple hours, because I'm not going to let you sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
For you, what is that connection between making sure you can get enough sleep at night and how much that does impact your ability to fend off mental health or even to deal with mental health?
Yeah. What you described, right? Uh, it's like a perpetual energy machine, right? However it starts, like sleep problems, but like having chronic insomnia, sleep problems, is like having chronic pain or chronic stress. Um, it just perpetuates and feeds itself. Um, and yeah, it can be miserable. One of the things that I ask folks uh, is sleep the problem or is it the symptom? So, like, uh, is your sleep poor because of anxiety, depression, and stress, and work, and conflict in relationships? And if that stuff got better, then you would sleep. Or is it the other way? You don't sleep well for whatever reason, or it feels like you get enough sleep, but you wake up tired and you're always tired. So something's wrong. Um, but how tired you are and how little sleep you get, that is what feeds the stress, the anxiety, depression. 2 hours of sleep, oh man, work is going to be miserable. Like I'm just, you wake up feeling terrible, like, and then you have a 10-12 hour day, like, oh man, that is like tough to wake up to day in, day out. Um, and so sometimes identifying, um, if I'm not sleeping well, why? And sometimes it's obvious. Sometimes it's like conflict in a relationship. It's work. I dread going to work. Sleep fine on the weekends. Day before I have to go back to work, oh man, I can't go to sleep. Sometimes it's obvious. Sometimes it's hard to pinpoint.
Right.
And yeah.
Well, and again, speaking to the culture that we have been in for so long, you know, and I'm sure you heard it too. It's all the typical American mindset of, well, I'll sleep when I'm dead. We don't allow ourselves time to rest. We don't give ourselves time to actually sleep. We think for a long time we saw people who decided, okay, well, I'm instead of just keeping going, I understand that I'm going to go get my sleep. It was almost seen as a sign of weakness in some regards of, well, that just means you're not trying hard enough. It's like, no, you're worn out. You can only go so long before you need to sleep, but we don't really afford ourselves the luxury of doing that. We've never really thought of it as how important it is just to keep ourselves running from a physical perspective, let alone understanding that you need that time, you need that sleep for your brain to regenerate and for your brain to be able to process everything that it has. Because we tend to, Robin Williams, bless him, had this great line about how, we don't understand that the human brain is a 3.5 pound gland that responds to stimulus constantly. And if you're at some point, even it has to go, time out, I need a break. And that's what sleep is for, and I often try and think about when was the last time I got some really, really good restful sleep. And the frightening thing is I don't remember.
Mm.
I don't remember because I'm so used to having my sleep pattern shift where I can go to bed at like 10 o'clock one night and I can get to sleep and I'm okay. The next night I won't be able to go to bed until 3 in the morning because my brain will kick into that gear. Or, and I don't know if you have this with some of your patients, of they dedicate themselves to getting to sleep at a certain time. It's like, okay, I'm going to make sure I'm in bed at say 9 o'clock. And at like 11, 12, 1, their brain just automatically kicks online and goes, hey, remember me? All that stuff that you didn't want to think about, we're going to think about it now. And
Right.
now I'm not going to let you go back to sleep. So you start to get sleep, but then you're not allowed to sustain it.
Yeah.
And I don't think enough people understand that as far as making sure you can give yourself a good sound sleep cycle so you can wake up and you can feel rested and you can just feel better, because it's amazing how much you can feel better if you've had good 6, 7, 8 hours of decent, legitimate sleep.
Right. Right. So you said a lot there, but like it's great. Like you're describing what people are going through. So there's different types of insomnia, right? There's the insomnia where I go to bed at 10 and then I'm up for 2 or 3 hours. I can't turn my brain off to get to sleep. So um, there's the other thing, like I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I only get 4 hours of sleep a night. So I go to sleep at 8 or 9 because I can't stay awake. And then I wake up at 1 or 2 and then I'm done for the rest
Yep.
of the night. So that's called sleep maintenance insomnia, sleep onset, getting to sleep, and sleep maintenance insomnia. And then some folks, they have just non-restorative sleep where they're in bed from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., but they're waking up every hour, or they're tossing and turning and they sleep really lightly.
Mm-hmm.
See, like when you have chronic insomnia, this is kind of the thing. It's kind of the key for fixing and healing and curing and sleep is making friends with sleep again. Like sleep isn't an enemy. It isn't a torturous experience. It's not full of frustration and just like agony. And that's no exaggeration. You can get to the point where it feels like agony, like
Yeah.
trying to get through the night. But is bedtime and the idea of sleep, is it calming and soothing and comforting and like, oh, it's something I look forward to, and it's just solid and like stable and like something like is like brings me peace in my life, that's kind of the goal of restoring healthy sleep. And when like your sleep problem entered into your life like early on,
Yeah.
so you like what a good night of sleep or what's normal is for you is like distorted.
Yeah. And I've
Right.
had, and you touched on it, I've had nights where it was agonizing to try and get to sleep. And the weird thing was, and I don't, and again, I can only go by my own experiences on this, but I've had nights where I've been so desperate and so agonized over the idea because I can't fall asleep that it would kick in my fight or flight response.
Exactly.
And like I would have to get up and go down to my garage and like wail on my heavy bag for however long it took me to finally get that out of my system and wipe me out so I could drag my carcass back upstairs and go back to bed. and
Yeah.
it may be an hour or two, and you know, and people don't. And for a long time, I felt like I felt like a freak because I just didn't understand why it was that one, I couldn't get to sleep. Two, when I went to sleep, I couldn't stay asleep, and then I would get into the point where I just want to relax enough and go to sleep,
Yeah.
but out of nowhere, it's all of a sudden it's like I'm being chased by a bear and I've got to fight or flight,
Yeah.
and it's like it I understand how scary that is for people. I understand how just absolutely confusing and disorienting that is for people, because we just think as soon as our head hits the pillow, that's it, lights out, we're done. And
Yeah.
especially now with, you know, you can have your phone on 24/7 and we're plugged in all the time, and having social media and not having the means that we used to have when we were younger, pre-internet, of no, you just turn the light off and go to bed. Maybe you stayed up and watched Johnny Carson. Okay, so what? You know, you
Yeah.
get a laugh in before you go to bed. But now the landscape is so different that what do you think, if there's one thing that people really need to emphasize or understand about it, what do you think is critical right now for people at this point in time to make sure that they can start getting better sleep?
Yeah. Better sleep, anxiety, depression, is really paying attention to the mental emotional stimulation, and not just in like the hour before bedtime, but throughout the day. Is practicing more mindfulness, um, and learning uh, stress management techniques, relaxation techniques, and managing your your arousal, your physiologic stimulation throughout the day. So here's an example. Uh, if you get up to like a scale of 1 to 10, if you get worked up to like an 8 or a 9, and you can do that reading Twitter, um,
Easy.
you know, like your bedtime routine of 30 minutes, 60 minutes, some people it's like 2 minutes, right, of relaxation, you'll go from an 8 or a 9 down to a 5. And because you're exhausted, you might crash and go to sleep. But then a couple hours later, you toss and turn, you wake up a little bit, you need up to get to use the bathroom, you're back up to an 8 or a 9, right?
Right.
You slept for 2 hours and you're like, oh man, I'm wide awake and it's 1 o'clock, right? And then the oh no kicks in, like, here's another night of bad sleep, I'm up at 1 o'clock again. And then you're here and it takes a while to wind down. And then so you're getting 2 hours sleep, wake for an hour or two, 2 hours, it's just bits and pieces of sleep, right?
Right.
But managing the chronic stress, the anger, the outrage, um, you know, the um, the the negative inputs from coworkers or family or whatever, having healthier boundaries with that. Well, if you manage your stress and you go to bed at like a 5 or a 4, or you start there and your bedtime routine gets you down to like a 2 or a 3, that same thing that woke you up, getting up to use the bathroom, instead of being wide awake and just like, oh man, tempted to get back on the phone or on the computer, it's like, I'm drowsy, I'm sleepy, I'm gonna go right back to sleep.
Hey guys, Devin here. Thanks for watching. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and check out the links below for more great original content. Talk to you soon. Bye.